Hey, it's JR. Welcome to the Level Up Business Podcast. Today, my friend Toni Haber is joining me, and we're going to go into some very interesting places because she has been to some very interesting places, doing very interesting things. We're going to be talking about impossible goals, unreasonable goals, because that's something that she has set for herself. Toni, it is so good to see you. It is so good to share time with you today.
You too, JR. This is such a treat.
Well, I'm so happy you're here because I mean you've got 40 years of real estate expertise, real estate wisdom, and I mean 2 billion in domestic and international residential transactions, 97% retention rate. But you're going even to a whole new level. I mean that you're gonna level up going forward because you have set an unreasonable goal and impossible goal, which I want to get to in a second. But before we go there, give me some good news. What is positive in your world, personally and or professionally, to get started today?
Wow. That's a loaded question. How much time do we have?
Let's go.
So, well, I just moved back into my apartment after 17 months of a renovation due to a flood from a contractor upstairs. I live in New York City, so I'm in a building. And my home is absolutely beautiful, so the wait was worth it. It feels so good to be home. And then after I arrived, so it's 3 weeks today that I've been home after the 17-month journey. We can get into that, all the different places I got to live and the experiences I got to have. And then a couple of days later, I picked up this little adorableness named Star. And she's a border terrier. Today she's 10 and a half weeks old, and it's so fun.
Yeah, a lot of, every beginning is an end, and every end is a beginning. And when you think about this journey, like you said, over the last 17 months or so, you got flooded out. Where did that take you? What was that adventure like, and what did you learn along the way?
So it's interesting. I was speaking to someone, and they classified it as like tears flooding my apartment, and it was just like closing of old chapters, happy and sad, and beginning of new chapters. And it was interesting because the flood got the whole entire infrastructure of my apartment. It didn't get any of my clothes, any of my furniture, and any of my paintings,
Oh,
but it got the whole entire infrastructure. So if you think of like do 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 do, so the whole place has been cleared, and yeah, just all new.
well, I think that's a great way to reframe what could have been a very negative perspective. It's tears. It's tears flooding your apartment to clean out the old to make way for the new. And a lot of it is just, and you even use the word chapter, closing some chapters out. And I think a lot of where my mind has been around not just closing out chapters, but writing completely new books, completely new stories. And that's something that you're doing now, setting unreasonable goals, impossible goals. Before we get into that impossible goal, what was life like before setting the impossible goal? What was life as a realtor, as an entrepreneur? What did life look like for you then before we get into the impossible goal here?
Yeah, so I've always been loved to learn and grow, and so especially after I left home and my parents were like nudging me to study. Like once I was released and took it upon myself to do that, I love learning and growing and connecting people. And so just coming across you and the group that we're engaged with and studying with and learning from each other and growing and holding each other to like huge levels accountability, it's always been a part of my DNA. And so this was just like next level.
Well, talk about that because it's, I I've been in a lot of entrepreneurial peer groups. We're talking about Elevated here with Chad Willardson. Been in a lot of entrepreneurial peer groups myself because, like you, I love to learn. I love to grow. I love to level up. And sometimes I have found that can be a bit of a lonely journey. Even when you're in entrepreneurial peer groups, you might actually be growing at a different pace than others around you. And so there you go. You find yourself a little bit lonely again. And so then you find a new group. When you have think about your own personal journey, your own personal growth, what have you learned about yourself? Like you said, this is just part of your DNA. It's who you are.
Yeah, well, part of this journey, to your point, was like it was so the past year, like if I look back at this time last year, it was
Mm-hmm.
so incredibly lonely and I was just sitting in it and it was so uncomfortable. But I knew I had to go through that to get to another place. But it was, I don't want to say it was miserable, but being lonely is not fun. But I knew there was a lesson in it or a growth spurt in it, and so I just sat in it and listened and observed and tried to hear the silence of what it was moving me towards.
Sometimes we find ourselves accelerating and elevating. Other times, though, as our friend Daniel White would say, we have to find peace on the plateau. Because I think when you're hardwired to always be growing, always looking for the next level up, when we do come to a plateau, we're like, is everything okay? Am I okay? What's wrong with me? And to your point, it's you like, I do feel lonely. But when you find yourself around others who are on that journey, some might be leveling up, some might be on the plateau as well. When you go back to being on the plateau, what did you find about yourself? What did you discover? But like you said, I was just trying to be in the silence, and perhaps even be okay with that. Can we go deeper there?
Yeah. Well, I learned that I like myself and that it's okay to be alone. And just because you're alone doesn't mean, for me being in New York City, it's an apartment, it doesn't mean you need to sit in your apartment or sit in your house or wherever you are by yourself. So I like called it date night with myself and we went to the theater and we had dinner before the theater and just like got to enjoy the city and life, and like it was okay that I did that by myself and just embrace that doing things by yourself is okay, and you can make it fun, and if you don't like have fun or like yourself being by yourself, like that's kind of like a problem in a way because you don't want to go into all those other things of codependency or whatever else that offers. So I think through this whole time it's making me more of a solid, grounded, self-assured, even more self-assured, understanding what I'll tolerate, what I won't tolerate in friends and family and life, and even the deals that we're involved with or the people that we're working with, like we get to say no now.
Mm.
Saying no isn't easy because you're saying no to some business, but it all this like leads, if you can stick with it and ride through it and just kind of instead of tightening, just kind of like ride the wave, like it's you do get to a pretty cool place.
I really appreciate you opening up there because your words, I like myself. I'll even take that a step further because I've been where you're at. And it is a very uncomfortable place to where I didn't like myself. And let's be honest, I didn't even love myself. But what I have found is the very first step is I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive myself and then like myself and then love myself. And I will tell you how this all came full circle because it was last Friday. I was at my daughter's school for what's called Flip Day. And Flip Day is where they bring in all of these outsiders. I'm not an educator, but they brought me in and about 30 other people or so to teach all of these seventh and eighth graders some life skills from changing a tire to gardening to where I was talking about public speaking. And, public speaking is one of those things that, people have said, wow, it comes so naturally to you. And I would say it has, but a lot of it has been up to a certain point in my life, a bit of a cover up too. I was using this as a way to mask and probably avoid some of my own personal pain. But then I was able to tell the kids, it's like, because when you think about public speaking, you get on stage, and one of the biggest, and 75% of people, 3 out of 4 people they fear public speaking. They don't want to speak in front of anyone. They would rather deal with spiders and heights and even death before they have to step on stage and talk to someone. And so I had 3 kids come up to the front of the class with me, in every single class that I did, and I was like, "How are you feeling right now?" They're like, "I'm scared. I'm anxious. I'm nervous." I'm like, "Okay, great. That means that you're alive." Number one. Number two, let's really put this into a whole other perspective. How many times are you sitting here having to present in front of class, but you're like worried about what everyone else is thinking? And they're like, "All the time." I go, "Let's do this." So I had all the kids just be quiet for 30 seconds, and you could feel the tension in the room for those 3 up in front of the class and then everyone else in the class. And I told the 3 in front, I was like, "Did you feel your anxiety go up?" "Yes." "Why?" Because they're like, "I'm wondering what everyone is thinking about me looking back at me." And I said, "Well, let me go ask everyone else." So I asked a couple of kids in the class, "What were you thinking about?" They were like, "Oh, I'm thinking about, what I'm doing later today, or I'm not thinking about anything right now, or I'm kind of bored." And one kid was like, I'm just glad it's them up there and not me." I was like, "Oh, so you're thinking about yourself. You weren't thinking about them." And they're like, "Absolutely." And I said, all this time we spend worrying about what everyone else is thinking about us, when in reality, everyone's just thinking about themselves. I said, number one. Number two, when you walk into a room and you already walk into that room knowing that everyone is going to like you, everyone is going to love you, then it's that much easier. And if you don't like me, it's because you probably don't like yourself right now. And I know how that feels because I've been there. And so one of the things I was telling the kids, it's like, I came in here and I was like, I know you already like me. You're already going to love me because I like myself and I love myself. And it's like that it was like you could see some eyes just light up like, I get it. I connect with that, or I need to work on that. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. I'm just curious. It's like, how many of us as entrepreneurs are doing what we're doing because of some past pain that we actually masked, to where in reality, it's like now when we deal with that pain becomes a platform to go help other people. What are your thoughts on that?
How great is that you did that with kids? I think I love that you did that. Like, because it's things that kids are thinking that we're thinking even as adults. But if we help the little ones through this at a young age, they come out like so different. I think that's amazing. If we did more of that kind of thing in schools, or kind of educational, I know in that kind of education, that kind of environment, I would have thrived a lot more. I actually hated school when I was younger. I just couldn't relate to anything we were studying. It was boring. I just didn't like the way it was taught. Like when it was taught, and if something was taught and it was fun and it engaged me, I was interested in it. It just, the one size fits all in school just didn't work. So I think that's amazing that they had that kind of day, and that, you brought them through something like that. I bet they'll never forget it.
Well, it's funny when you say that, because we talked about the forgetting curve. And in about 7 days, I told them, you're going to forget 95% of what I've told you. But it's that 5%. And in one of the smaller, because the first couple classes, I had 30, 40, 50 kids. In one class, I just had 7, because I had 4 rotations for about 30 minutes each.
Wow.
But in the 7-person class, we had much more dialogue, discussion, conversation. So I went around the room at the end, and some of the transformations that they shared, like, I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like if we had more time to just dialogue, discuss, discourse, and if you think about education, this is how education used to be back in the days of the Greek, right? Like you got the Socratic questions that would go around, and no one has the answers. We just have the questions. And so I guess, and for me, it's like within every question that we ask is a quest. It's a quest to go on. It's a journey to go on. And so a journey that I want to go on with you is when you talk about this transformation that you've had over the last 17, 18 months, and even where you were a year ago, to where it's like, I like myself now, and finding peace on the plateau. have how have you told yourself perhaps just a different story? And maybe is it the story that you're telling yourself? Is that the big transformation of what you're seeing, of what you're thinking, of what you're feeling? And as a result, you had the tears flood your apartment. You closed out chapters. You're starting to write new chapters. Is it really just telling a different story to yourself?
I think it's that. I think it's mindset. I think it's like with that book, Healthy Deserve, or that you deserve
Level. Yes.
this, you deserve joy, you deserve happiness, you deserve abundance, whether that's financial, emotional. Yeah, I just think it's mindset. And it's interesting when I'll talk from my experience, when I've kind of drew the line in the sand, or raised my elevated and raised my floor, as we talk about it.
Mhm.
And then you really mean it, because I think the universe, when you say you mean it, the universe is like, do you really mean it? Because I'm going to test you. I'm going to test you and see if you really mean it. So when you really mean it, and you do raise your standards, and you do raise your floor. When I mean standards, it could even be like, no, you can't talk to me like that, or just like, that's not okay, or yeah, or dealing with a client that's abusive, and just like, I don't need your business. Like, we're not on the same level. Like, it doesn't it can equate to any area of our life, when we raise our standard, raise our floor, and are elevated all around, right? And so that's what I love about meeting you and our group, because we are also really honest with each other, right? We're really, it's not fluff.
No.
It's hardcore, bringing each other to our best possible selves.
Is what you're talking to about when you're talking about raising your floor, and then yeah, you're 100% correct. You're going to get tested. It's like, are you serious about this, or is it just lip service? Because I think there's a couple different levels here. It's roll this back. Is it about when you're talking about relationships? Is it really about respect? Is that what I'm hearing from you? Is it respect?
Yeah, I, I I think, yeah, I think you mean like respect from ourselves, or respect from other people, or all of it?
That's an open-ended question because
Yeah.
one of the things that and my wife Delina, we've Delina and I had this model that we developed together, and it's that we call it the pyramid of human relationships. And one of the things I ask is like, what's at the foundation of every positive relationship? And a lot of people will default and they say trust, and I go, you're on the right path, but something has to come before trust, because trust is the sum of what you say and what you do. It's your words and your actions combined. That's how we develop and maintain trust. But if you go a level below that, all of we have to have respect. You know, first and foremost for ourselves. And before we can respect others, we got to respect ourselves. And when we respect ourselves, then we can respect others. And then the next level up beyond that is then trust. And then beyond that, the ultimate is love. That's the third level of human relationship. And love I love, like the perspective of Thomas Aquinas, is just to will the good of another human being, which is why I can sit here and say I love you because I want the best for you. Like, I'll do anything that I can. Particularly, we are in a group. We are working together. We are working to elevate and level up. So there is love between our group, even for that matter. So but it all comes back to respect. Am I missing something here?
No, I think you're spot on. I think also it's about communication. So people, but being kind in the communication, meeting people where they're at, because it's hard to guess what's in somebody's head. And if you could
Mm.
feel like somebody's seeing your heart, and you really know where they're coming from, whether it's, in our group, or, and that, in our group, or, you know, with our families or with our loved ones. I think that gives us, when somebody sees your heart, like for me, I can fly. I become an eagle and I just soar. Um, it's just a really good feeling. So it's all that.
Well, and I think that's a great segue in just your own story and the story that you're writing, the chapters that you're about to write, and really are already writing, but it's from a new place, it's from a new perspective, it's from liking yourself. It's honesty, which is coming back to trust and respect for yourself. When when it comes to impossible goals, unreasonable goals, something that we have been talking about a lot, and I've been thinking about, like, for example, rapid transformation. Like, is that even possible? Like, I would have questioned that, but if I think back about my own personal journey, I'm like, yes, rapid transformation is 100% possible, but it all starts by telling the truth. Like, it all starts there. If you're not fully integrated or fully telling the truth, then you probably will struggle with this. And so when you think about your impossible goal, walk us back of what it was like to communicate that, because you use communication here, to share that in a public forum for the first time. What happened?
We'll see. The story's still being written. Um, but at the end of my life, I always say, like, I want to go in, like, as if I'm sliding into home plate, like, sliding in and being like, yeah. And so for me, that's like seeing what I've got. And so the physical challenges, emotional challenges, mental challenges. And so that came down to a business challenge for me. I know that I'm capable of doing $300 million a year in sales, and I haven't done it yet. And I really want to do it. It the driving force is to see that I've got that. Like anything I set my mind to, I can do. And then also, not that I don't have it now, but it also gives me more freedom to make other people's lives better in
Mm.
ways that I choose to do so.
Well, your point of sliding into home base at the very end and playing the good game, running the good race. I mean, that's the whole reason of the shirt I'm wearing right now. It's my personal motto. It's Memento Mori. And it remains, remember your death. Because how many of us go through life and it's like and I've been there myself. It's something that Napoleon Hill wrote about in Outwitting the Devil. We just drift. Napoleon Hill called them drifters. We just drift through life without any real intention, without any real purpose, without any real point or meaning. But now it's like you've set this goal because you know you're capable of it. I think that's the thing. You know it. Now you want to see it, achieve it, be it. But you're already probably embodying some of that already. Like you said, the story's still being written, but it's there. It's just you got to go out there and meet that, right?
For sure. Yeah. So we are still writing it. We are still planning it. We are still living it. And want to have joy along the way and laughter along the way, like not take myself too seriously. So yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to get there, but I know it's just the little things we do. It's almost like a horse race. You win by a nose, and it's the little things you do behind the scenes that make the big difference out in front. And so there's a lot of behind the scenes going on right now.
Well, I think, and I was talking to another entrepreneur about this recently. I was coaching them, and they were like really frustrated. And I said, listen, we got to write a new story. We got to help you write a new story first before you go out and tell your story to anyone, because they were just telling themselves such a negative story and they were reinforcing it with their own behaviors. And so it's like you got to think of it like a record, right? Or a CD. I mean, I know we could talk about that.
DVD.
DVD, yeah, like, but I don't know. I've got this thing, like, I have this hunch that the physical world might see a comeback with CDs, with records, with DVDs, for
Really?
a variety of, yeah, just something's telling me that. I mean, even like with my kids as a personal experiment, we've been printing out photos for them and building them like physical photo albums. You mentioned joy. They're finding so much joy just sitting down because it's something they can touch. Something instead of just sitting there flipping through the phone, it's now becoming more of a communal experience. Like the two or three of them will sit down, they'll look through photos, they'll remember back, they have stories associated with it. But when you think about a CD or a DVD, and we're watching the same movie over and over again, sometimes we just gotta like scratch that disc, and give us the opportunity to write and record a new one. And so when you think about the story that you're writing, what beliefs are changing in yourself that might not have been there before? It might even be something deeper than that. It might not be a belief. It might even be an identity shift. Because I've gone through, if I think about my own entrepreneurial journey, I've gone through 3 identity shifts over the last 23 years as an entrepreneur. And I say identity because I'm not the same person that I was. And knowing that, I'm probably going to go through even more identity shifts because I plan on playing this game until I am done. But how has your identity shifted, perhaps, for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely walking into my apartment again as a place I get to live again. 3 weeks ago today, I definitely am not. The lights went. That's the lights went out. The I'm definitely not the same person that walked in, that walked out of that door after the flood. And I think the identity is just mindset, and that understanding that life is not a straight line, and all the bumps and things that happen outside of our control to make it lemonade versus lemon. And so I tried having that perspective through the whole last 17 months, and that caused me to change like everything, change mindset, change my goals. We talked about me letting go, firing team, and putting people in place who share your vision, who share your passion, who understand and want to achieve your goals and come on the bus with you, versus I'll talk about myself with people who really didn't have the same vision, who didn't want to do what I wanted to do, but we were together, and it's just not a good environment. So I think it's caused me to also live my authentic self, like to be my authentic self, and not, I'm not saying I'm better, but not like go down to other people's levels if they don't want to rock the boat, or they just want to not change anything and just keep doing what they're doing, versus be uncomfortable or get out of your comfort zone to explore life differently.
I mean, it's a good point. It's when I ask, like, well, what has changed identity wise? Like, you're literally turning over an entire new team who is committed to the vision that you have, and that's where they're either on the bus or they're off the bus. It's kind of like Mr. Miyagi in the Karate Kid. He was training Daniel, and he told Daniel one day, you walk on the right side of the road, you're okay. You walk on the left side of the road, you're okay. But if you walk in the middle of the road, just like great, because it's like you're gonna have to make a choice. You're either going to continue to elevate, level up, and ascend, or you're probably, I don't know. I don't know if someone can just stay the same, because we're either ascending or we're descending. And that's just the way that I look at the world. I don't know if there's an even kill. Maybe there is, but it's just I'm always looking, and I want to be on the side of just continuing to level up and grow, like learn together, grow together, elevate, level up together. And then you got to get the team. You got to get the right people in the right seats on the right bus going in the right direction at the right time. So if someone is watching or listening to this as we start to wrap up here, and they might be where you were, they might be on the plateau, and they might have had a lot of growth up to this point, but they're kind of like, now they've leveled out. And perhaps they think they've leveled out. They think that they're now descending. What would you recommend for them to continue to get out of the gap, get out of the valley, and just one step at a time, like you said, the horse race, one decision every single day? What would that one decision be for them to continue to level up themselves?
I would say be bold. Just
I mean,
try it. It's kind of fun. It could mean just even going in the cold plunge for, if you're used to it, for 30 seconds, going for a minute and a half. It could be asking your boss for a raise, where you're just like petrified to do that. It could be to speak to your spouse, openly, where maybe you drifted away and didn't like aren't having conversations, to sit down and have a conversation and look each other in the eye and hold hands. And I'm sure the other person would feel like, oh, wow, they care. So just be bold. Be bold to be better.
can I add to that? I have one more, and it really comes back to a question, because it's like every question is a quest. Can I add to yours?
100%.
What's the story that you're telling yourself right now that is keeping you stuck? Because that's all it is. It's just a story, and
Yeah.
you are the author. You have the pen, you have the paper, and then this follow up to that is not what's the story. When are you going to rewrite that? When are you going to choose to rewrite that?
Amen.
Because that, I think, when you rewrite that, that's going to give you the courage and the boldness to go do the things, the discipline to do the things that others only dream about doing.
Change your story, change your life. And you can try it. If you don't like it, just go back to the same, but at least try it.
Yeah, exactly. Or don't even, you could try it. If you don't like it, why go back to the same? Why not try something else? Because there's a field of infinite possibility. And we just have to figure out where are we being called, is something that we talked about recently when we talked about identity. It's not who we've been. It's not who we are. It's not who we're becoming. It's who we're being called to become.
Amen.
And when we can get in alignment with who we're being called to become by the power higher and greater than us that has the perception to see the things that we can't see, I think that's when the massive transformation really begins to happen.
Yeah, and that's living consciously, right? Like,
Yeah. What does that, I know we keep going. What does that mean to you, live consciously? Because you're opening up a whole other can of worms. We're going to wrap up on this, but what is living
oh my
consciously?
God, I remember doing a Tony Robbins event a long time ago, over probably over 25 years ago, and just I remember him taking us through, I think it was called the Dickens process, and like we saw each other 5 years out, 10 years out. What if you didn't do what you wanted to do? What if you didn't live how you wanted to live? What if you look back and you wasted all this time in your life and you wish you should have or could have, or and I was like bawling, just like, oh my God, please don't let that happen. And so that's always been in the background of my mind, like to not look back on my life and just, nothing's perfect. Of course, there are things, I can't think of anything right now that I wish I would have done, but to just have no regrets.
Well, and you got a fire truck coming back behind you, I hear.
Do you
So I'm
hear
gonna,
the
yeah.
sirens?
And we're gonna leave this in because I mean this is the realness that this podcast brings. We're
It's
not
like,
gonna do it.
woo! Don't
Yeah,
do it! Don't do it!
but I'll tell you this: I think you're really onto something, and I want to add to that thought. There are four. We'll call them four narratives. I think I call it the 4M framework. You've got a mission. That mission can become a manifesto. That manifesto then can become a manuscript, and then that manuscript is bookended by your memento mori. That is your obituary. And that's something that I was working with an entrepreneur recently. I was like, hey, I want you to write your obituary. I want you to go to the end of your life. I want you to write from who you are becoming backwards. And they said that story, that narrative, and they're doing something completely different now as a result of that, because they realized what they were doing was not in alignment to who they wanted to be when they took their last breath and had their last heartbeat.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Very good
powerful.
stuff. Yes, it is. And it is powerful. Thank you for the wisdom that you have shared here today to help others level up on their own entrepreneurial journey. I really appreciate it. If someone wants to connect with you and continue the conversation we've started here, what's the best way for them to reach out, say hello? Maybe they even have a property that they want to sell, and you're the person who can help them do that. How can they connect with you?
Amazing. We're actually doing deals all over the world right now, and I love like the for me, I feel one of the reasons why I'm here on earth is like connecting people. I love that. So yeah, so if you guys want to reach out and talk, my email is easy. It's Toni, my name, Toni at compass.com.
TONI at compass.com. Send her an email, connect with Toni, learn with Toni, level up together with Toni. Toni, thank you so much for joining for another episode of the Level Up Business Podcast.
So good seeing you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hey, it's JR. Before we wrap up, I have one more question for you. Are you a visionary entrepreneur who wants to elevate your brand and expand your influence to increase your impact? If this is you, you're the reason we're on a mission to amplify the voices of visionary entrepreneurs by unlocking their wisdom, sharing their stories, and publishing their books. So, when you are ready to level up your business and your life, send me a text to 832-240-1922. That's because I want to teach you to amplify your voice so that your mission and message are seen, known, and heard by those who need your help the most.